you can also expand your creativity with another concept that I coach on, which is to focus on your frustration. Companies are started because of people's frustrations, because of a problem. So we don't want to shy away from our problems. Instead, you want to focus on what is bugging you. If there's something that you really don't like about your job, let that lead you to your next step. Get curious about why that is, about what is bothering you. Not only is it going to help you solve your problem if you're having a down day and help you to create some greater awareness around what maybe needs changing in your life, but it's also can be very useful in leading you to your next step.
Hello, and welcome to the New Mission Career Transition Podcast. I'm your host, Chris Caprellian, and I'm joined by my co-host, sister, and talent management pro, Alexandra Caprellian. We interview service members that transition to new careers, DoD representatives, and civilian HR professionals to provide you with lessons learned you won't get in a transition class and to help you transition with confidence. Hey, so on this next episode, we have Amy Lee Miller, and I'll tell you, she is a long ball hitter. This is our first guest that doesn't have a military background, but boy, does she have a wealth of knowledge. She is a career coach, an author, she is a professional recruiter, and she consults with other businesses on how to get their recruiting up to speed so they don't lose out on a ton of revenue having the wrong hires. Hadley, what did you think of our guest?
She's awesome.
That's right, she is. And I'll tell you what, you're going to think the same thing when you listen to this episode. It's all about mindset, ladies and gentlemen, overcoming fear, understanding how to find your creative spirit. For a lot of us, we're type A and we don't think we have a single creative bone, but I'll tell you what, it's not true. So stay tuned. Amy Lee Miller, my coach. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. Thank you, Chris, for having me. Great to be here.
Yeah, so this is a little bit different. I know that my sister's normally the co-host here, but I do have a co-host today, Peggy with SY Partners. She has extensive experience in HR. Amy, you have extensive experience in many things HR. So again, I'm in awe. I've got like two pros in their fields. And we're going to get down to some business that's going to help service members as they prepare for their transition. So before we get into some of the nitty-gritty of the things that you do as a career coach, I want the audience to know who you are and where you come from. So Amy, where did you grow up?
I grew up in Virginia, a few hours, so Southern Virginia, a few hours south of DC. And I would say mainly in Virginia, but also outside of Kansas City. So divorced parents, mom in Virginia, dad in Kansas City. So I grew up kind of in both places.
I know that you had a career that kind of started. Where did your career start out after you kind of went through your schooling and education?
My career, I would say, started in Virginia, the Virginia Beach area. And so when I graduated college, I kept waiting tables for years because I actually had a really challenging time finding my direction. And so I ended up going into restaurant management in the Kansas City area. And after about a year, I learned that was not at all what I wanted. So when I would say I actually started my career in sales, I was in the Virginia Beach area.
Wow. Where I'm at. See,
that's right. Right.
That's right. I forgot. You know this area.
Yes, I do. Very well. Uh-huh.
Yeah. And so, when you went into sales, what kind of sales are we talking about?
I ended up in medical sales, but I first started in business to business sales, which is a great way to get your foot in the door in sales. It's very challenging and it gives you an opportunity to really prove yourself. And then that's a great way to kind of earn your stripes and then start from there. I ended up in magazine advertising sales. And actually, it is a great story how I ended up there because how I got there can help others in following their curiosity to get their career started or make that career transition. So if I may veer off a little bit and then come back.
Please. Now Yeah, you've already like opened the door. You got to walk through it
Veer
now.
away.
Okay, great. Thank you. So I've been a writer my whole life since I was very little. 7 years old, I started writing. And so when I was younger, well, ever since I was little, I wanted to be an author. And let's see, I had moved from Kansas City after I quit the restaurant management job back to where I was from, Virginia Beach area. And I just was waiting tables again and trying to get my career started. And I got an idea. I searched for a very long time and I was just growing increasingly frustrated. And one night I gave up on searching. And this is actually a tactic or a tool that I coach on and that I speak about to help folks who are feeling maybe a little bit lost, not sure of their direction, which is stop searching, just kind of give up on looking for the solution and instead get focused back on the problem and actually state the problem. And I think what this does is it brings you present. And in the present moment, that's when you're going to get your ideas. And so because you clear your mind and then you're not searching for a solution, you just kind of take a break. And then that's when the solution finds you. So I'll never forget this moment. I was so unhappy and frustrated and I was going to sleep and I was in bed and I said, I just somehow got the idea to just state the problem. And I said, I want a new job, but I don't know what it is. And then I went to sleep. Oh, no, I asked myself one more question. I said, if I could do anything, what would I do? And that answer I had instantly, I said I would be a writer. And then I went to sleep. And then when I woke up, I had an idea, which was to look on this local magazine, Hampton Roads magazine. They may call it something different now, but they may still have it in the Virginia Beach area, to look on their job board, look on their website. And I had no idea what I was searching for because I thought, what am I going to get? An internship? I've got bills to pay. I live on my own kind of thing. But sometimes we want to just keep moving forward, following that illogical action. And looking on their job board, I saw account executive ad. I should also say I didn't think that I had enough writing experience at that time to get a staff writing job, but I saw an opportunity for advertising account executive. And I looked at the requirements and I met none of those, but I applied anyway. And I wrote a very heartfelt cover letter and I sent my bare bones resume and I got an interview in a couple weeks and I got the job. And that is how I started my sales career. So yeah.
That's awesome. And that was the beginning of a writing career too.
Not exactly. It was a very long, windy road to finally publish my first book, which I never thought would be on recruiting. But, we just take that first step and that's going to lead us on to the start of our path and then the next and then the next and then the next. So, yeah.
That's great. Were there other challenges that you encountered as you were like growing up and moving throughout your career that informed your practice as a consultant or as a career coach?
Absolutely. I will say, I was popular growing up. People liked me. I always had friends, but on the inside, I was deeply unhappy. I battled depression. I battled severe panic attacks. And I became, I started my self-improvement journey at a very young age because somehow I inherently knew that if I found the reasons, if I uncovered the reasons why I was experiencing these challenges, then I would find the solution. And so I was always into a practice of self reflection, introspection, naturally very curious, always digging deeper, multiple layers deep to try to understand the source of the problem. And so I was always using my resources, researching, reading, searching, writing, trying to figure things out. And I did. I'll say, teach myself how to overcome my panic attacks. And then many years later, how to overcome the depression, just feeling I was always functioning. So this was another thing that goes into my coaching and consulting. I started developing what I call now success habits at a young age because I wasn't feeling good. And so I needed something to make myself feel good. And I learned that accomplishing things and achieving made me feel really good. So I started doing that. So even though I was not feeling very happy and connected on the inside and to people around me, I kept progressing in my career with some of these solid success habits healthy habits that I locked in place. And if it weren't for my experiences, all of the challenges that I went through, I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing now.
And it still informs your practice today.
Oh, 100%. Absolutely.
Well, I just want to get into it now. I mean, I don't want to cut you. I know we have limited time on the recording, but I just want to talk about first. Let's level set everybody on what it is that you do. So like right now, correct me if I'm wrong, you're serving as a consultant, but you still have a career coaching business. Is that accurate?
Yes, I do. So I have a career coaching business where I do work with professionals one on one. And you could also call it success coaching, but normally folks are coming to me for a transition in their career. And often, they're doing well, they've been successful, but they're not happy and they want to change and they're trying to figure out what that is, or they know exactly what it is that they want, but they're having some challenges getting started. So I do work with professionals one on one for career coaching. And I also have, this is my ninth year now recruiting. So I'm a recruiter and I'm very passionate about saving time, problem solving. And I've had a lot of success as a recruiter. And toward the end of my maybe eighth year recruiting, I started to become increasingly frustrated with what I call or some of the unnecessary inefficiencies I was noticing in the process. Now, there's always going to be challenges in the hiring process, surprises that we don't like, and things that are beyond our control. But I just felt like I could offer more in a consulting capacity, helping hiring managers and making lasting hires and avoiding some of these unnecessary challenges. So in addition to my career coaching program, I built out a hiring training program. And well, at first I got the idea for the training program, and then I decided, well, okay, well, first let me write a book. So that was my first book, Ready, Set, Recruit: The Hiring Manager's Guide to Recruiting with Confidence. So from the chapters, I created the lessons that I teach hiring managers in the training. And the goal is to help companies, of course, save what ends up being or can end up being millions of dollars in revenue lost due to bad hires, but also just helping leaders hire with confidence. And a lot of these, the core concepts in my one-on-one coaching program are underlying in the hiring training program too. So teachings on improving yourself and social awareness. So in addition to things like identifying your candidate profile and creating the ideal interview process and things like that, I incorporate other tools as well, as far as awareness, focus on the frustration, problem solving, increasing or learning how to better tap into and follow your instincts. So was that clear? I do three different things. Sorry, kind of went on a tangent there.
No, it's clear to me that if there were three parties and you being one of them, you have the companies and the company pain point of getting the right talent efficiently and effectively, so that they can grow their business and achieve whatever that mission is of that organization. Then you have the individual who's searching for career guidance. And so you kind of, because you have experience on both sides of the spectrum, you serve as the bridge between the two. I mean, I know that it's not necessarily pairing a company with a specific client, but your expertise is in kind of both realms, which I think makes it very germane to, the focus of what we're trying to get after here is how do we make a big career pivot, because that's what service members are doing.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe you could give us a little bit of career coaching advice, right? I want to get into this. So for those of you that may have not read the episode notes, I'm going to tell you right now, Amy Lee Miller is a published author. She's a bit of an overachiever. And so she's got one on corporate recruiting, but the other one that I've got in my hands right now it's called Where's My Mustard? How to Let Go, Attract, and Achieve, a Quest for Self-Empowerment. And I want to read the description here of fear. In your book, you defined fear as an unpleasant emotion caused by the belief that someone or something is dangerous, likely to cause pain, or a threat. And I think many of the fears that we encounter, even when we're transitioning from what we know into something completely different, fear can arise. So how do you help coach your clients through overcoming that fear?
Yeah, absolutely. One way is to a concept that I call change your perspective, change your life. And that's just what I call it. I'm sure lots of other speakers talk about the same thing maybe in different ways. But when we look at something differently, we get, we receive different feedback. We receive a different outcome. And this is actually how I overcame my panic attack. So it doesn't get any scarier than a full blown panic attack, or maybe it does, but it's, what would happen for me is I would actually lose consciousness. So that's total loss of control, which is really terrifying. And it was happening more and more frequently. Uh, and what I did was I actually read a book that was talking about fear. And I learned that through that book, I learned that I was creating the fear. And there was absolutely nothing wrong with me. So if I could shift my focus so that the fear didn't happen or could subside or lessen, then maybe I wouldn't have a panic attack. And that's what ended up happening. That's how by shifting my focus, I distracting myself, whenever the unpleasant emotions or fear would start to come in, that is how I overcame my panic attacks. And we're going to have fear. It's natural. However, we can choose our focus. And that's one thing that I call a superpower, the power to choose your focus. Because the more you focus on something, the bigger it is going to get. And so if you are, what will happen is initially you might get an idea. So a little glimmer of an idea, something that sparks your curiosity. And if you focus on that, you're going to get excited. This might be for a career direction or just anything new that you want to try. Maybe you've got an idea in the back of your mind, something that you've been wanting to do. You want to focus on that. And so then you want to pay attention to what comes first, because after you focus or get an idea for something new, the moment after, fear is going to come in because you don't know the outcome. You don't know if it's going to work out. You don't know what you're going to experience. And this can happen with little things like going to a new workout class. We get nervous. We haven't been there before. Everybody else knows each other. We don't know what to expect. So the trick is to choose your focus and choose to shift your focus back to the excitement, the curiosity, and what you focus on is going to expand. And then fear will come back in, but then you just repeat the process. And so it's a way of changing your mindset, and then you're no longer scared of that thing because you're choosing to shift your focus.
So Amy, what does peak performance look like, and how do you get a client closer to it?
That is a very interesting question. I think it's going to be different for everyone, and I even think it's going to be different every day. And I think peak performance is maybe too high of a standard to try to aim for. To have that idea in your mind that this is what I'm aiming for. But I think peak performance, it's going to be defined by how you feel, because you could be the top person on your team, you could be the top salesperson, you could be winning, for example, all of the awards. But if you're not happy, you're not going to feel successful. So a lot of times people want to shy away from the word success. I hear this a lot, but I think we need to redefine success to, what is your idea of success? And it's doing what you love to be doing, at least some of the time. You don't have to quit one job that you hate right away and go right to what it is that you love. But to be a peak performer, to actually feel like you're a peak performer, you're doing what you love and you're feeling energized and on fire, and you are taking action toward your goals. But I want to back up a moment. You are first, number one, able to prioritize what is meaningful to you, and then take action steps to work toward it. Because if you think of, okay, I want to be a peak performer, then that might be too high of an expectation. It might be too big of a goal. And in order to achieve what I like to call our bigger goals, we have to break them down into smaller bite-sized action steps, like SMART goals. You give yourself, a bigger goal is something that's going to take many steps to get there. But if you're focused just on that big end goal, it's too much. So, it can stop us in our tracks with the overwhelm. But if you think of, okay, you first, you have to identify what it is you want, and then you have to trust your instincts to make that a priority. So I think that is the start of being a peak performer, and then taking action steps each day consistently. which is again goes back to trusting your instincts and trusting what is that your ability to prioritize what is meaningful. Because if you're not listening to your instincts, you can't hear yourself. You can't hear what it is that is meaningful to you. And then you're not going to prioritize it. Because once you set a goal for yourself, you're going to have to be consistent, and there are going to be distractions. You're like, for example, when I decided, okay, I'm going to write a book, and I decided I'm going to write and publish this book in 90 days. I wanted to get it done quickly because I wanted to roll out this consulting program. I was ready to start working on this. And so I decided, okay, from this time to this time, setting aside this time block, I'm focusing on my writing. I will not take any phone calls. I will not take any text messages. I will not do any other work. And that can be hard for a lot of people to do. In order to create the discipline, you have to prioritize what is meaningful, and you have to trust your instincts, and you can create discipline from that. So peak performance is knowing what you want and taking action, working toward it. And that's going to make you feel fired up. And that's going to help you. That energy is going to help you better focus and spill over into all other areas in your life and in your work, the things that you maybe don't want to do. You're not going to mind them as much because you're elevating your mindset, and you're feeling fired up because you're going in the direction of what is meaningful to you.
That's amazing. And what I heard from that too is that the peak performer is a mindset. It's not necessarily the outcome.
Yes.
It's the way you get to it's the journey getting there.
Yeah, I love that. Yep. You said it very simply put. That's perfect. Yes. Mindset.
Shame on me, because even my mindset in asking the question was proposing a solution to a problem that hadn't yet been defined. We talk about this in military planning, about doing problem framing and design and truly understanding the problem before you even move forward. Everybody wants to move to solving a problem before they put in the mental rigor to define it. In this case, it really goes back to what you were saying earlier, is just knowing yourself, knowing what your pull is, what are you curious about, what gets you excited. Because if you start from that point moving forward, you're going to find you've got what maybe 80% of what other people would call peak performance, right? It's not drinking the kale shake every morning and, getting singing.
That could be a good habit,
right?
Though.
It could be, but it's not going to be the solution to the problem unless you're going to become a nutritionist and you're trying to figure out which kale shake is best for the body,
There are definitely some key success habits that I encourage my clients to implement as part of my coaching practice, and that I do myself. But even though I'm locking these in and I'm doing them every day, the meditation, the breathing, for starters, it doesn't mean I'm feeling on top of my game every single day. But yes, you absolutely can implement some key, what I call success habits, as that are just part of your routine that are going to help you become that peak performer. And no shame on you for asking that question. I'm really glad that you did, because I think a lot of times we put too high expectations on ourselves, and that can stop us from getting started.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I'd like you to talk to us about creativity. I use creativity, and you might use a different word, but I think one of the things that was profound in my coaching experience, or being coached by you, and I want you to share it with others, is I'm kind of a military square, right? Like, the funniest thing is you see a bunch of very like-minded people on a room, and every single one of them, including myself, thinks I'm a creative individual. But then you get pulled out of that and you're like, actually, maybe I'm not so creative, and I'm like running into a mind block. And maybe it's those performance steps you had briefly referenced, but how important is creativity, and how do you get a client that doesn't think they have a creative bone in their body to find it and apply it in a manner that's meaningful?
First, every single one of us is creative. I mean, we were creative when we were kids. And I talk about this in my book, the Where's My Mustard book. One way, a success habit, is to act like a kid again. When we were kids, we played, we used our imagination, we daydreamed, and I never stopped. My imagination just never stops. But if you don't feel like you're creative, you are, number one, you have it within you inherently, and it's a skill that you already know how to use. You just maybe haven't tapped into it in a while. I was listening to a video by Brian Tracy recently. So he teaches sales trainings, and he's an author and a speaker. And he was talking about how we use creativity just in our decision making all day long, finding solutions for things. I think almost an involuntary habit. But if so, you're wanting to help people understand how to tap into their creativity for what specific purpose? To figure out what they want to do career wise, or what?
Yeah, to think big. Like sometimes we get so focused on thinking so hyper specific, we don't give ourselves an opportunity to think about what's in the realm of the possible.
Yeah. Okay. A couple things. One is to stay present as much as possible. And what that means is it's hard to get our minds to pause, because we're always thinking, I have to do this, I have to do this, and just, maybe ideas that we're getting and things like that. But one way to stay present is to solve your problems faster so that they're not distracting your mind and pulling away from the present moment, ideas that you're otherwise not going to see. And one way you can do that is a breathing practice, or just even if you don't want to do a breathing practice, take a deep breath. If you're feeling frustrated or just throughout the day, just be conscious of your breath. Anytime you shift your focus to something in the present moment, that brings you present. So in the present moment, that is when and where you get your ideas, because it's the only place where anything ever happens. So if you stay in the present moment as much as possible, you're going to be more creative because ideas are going to flow more freely. And maybe another maybe more practical application is brainstorming. Because that's going to give you momentum. So if you have an idea, maybe a career direction idea or something that you want to try, or just maybe something that you want to write about or something that you want to research, let's say a career idea, write it down and then start writing down maybe whatever comes to mind, things that you can do to learn more about that, action steps that you can take, skills that you have, or you could even write down what you're good at and what you like. But just making lists and just taking what's in your brain and putting it on paper, that's going to lead to more and more and more and more and more ideas. And all you need is your first idea, your first step, and then you take the step. It might be calling someone. One of my clients was trying to figure out his career direction, very successful in his career, but not happy at all. But a lot of fear in the how. We get caught in the how. Okay, I know this is what I want to do, but how am I going to get there? And that how was keeping him stuck. So he had an idea to reach out to a person whose career he was following and was curious about. So that's a perfect example of your first step. I'm going to reach out to this person, because a lot of our path is information gathering, which leads you to the next thing. So a lot of times people get stuck on the how, and we cannot possibly know the how. There's no way at all for us to know how we're going to get where we're going. So, and that can be a big roadblock that keeps people stuck. So for example, I never could have known that my first book was going to be on recruiting. Never would have guessed that. I think I probably thought my first book, I would write fiction novels. I'm probably never going to do that. I mean, it's just probably not, a direction I'm going to take, but that's what I thought it was going to be. But, you take one step. I got into sales and then recruiting for the industry, and then, got these other ideas. You can also expand your creativity with another concept that I coach on, which is to focus on your frustration. Companies are started because of people's frustrations, because of a problem. So we don't want to shy away from our problems. Instead, you want to focus on what is bugging you. If there's something that you really don't like about your job, let that lead you to your next step. Get curious about why that is, about what is bothering you. Not only is it going to help you solve your problem if you're having a down day and help you to create some greater awareness around what maybe needs changing in your life, but it also can be very useful in leading you to your next step on your career path. So creativity, brainstorming, presence, even just by bringing attention to your breath, getting curious about what you like and what you like doing, what you feel great about when you're doing that thing, and then just focusing on it so that it can expand, and focusing on what is bothering you. Focus on the frustration. Those are a few tips to help expand your creativity.
And that's what you helped me do. This gets me excited thinking about it, because I will tell you that having done a lot of research and talking to a lot of people that provide a lot of resources to service members that are getting ready to transition, a vast majority of them, they're tactically focused, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And the thing that you helped me with, and that I think a good career coach does for a client, is they don't let you go down the tactics. You focus on the strategy. It starts with knowing where you're at, what is the current state, and what is the desired future state. And if you can't answer those questions up front, i.e., know what you're curious about, know what excites you, know
Mm-hmm.
what it is, and think big about what you want your future to be. And I say desired future state, not end state. That's too prescriptive. But if you can get that down, then you can figure out all the intermediate steps that get you from point A to that point B, and it may end up being a different point C or D. You just don't know, but how to travel that path in a manner that's just exciting and fulfilling. And I think that's great. That's a great summary of strategy. But I need to get you to a little. I want some tactics. Since I
Okay.
have, well, it's not. You're not just a recruiter. You're a person that consults with others on how to do it better. And so I thought,
Mm-hmm.
what better expert to ask about some tactics involved with trying to land that job. After you figure out what it is that you want to do, the thing that excites you, and you start going through things. A lot of service members hear about, if you can find a way to actually get in front of a hiring manager or the person that makes a hiring decision, like the probability of you being able to actually get selected for that position goes up significantly. But they throw this word around like, I know what a hiring manager is. I know Peggy does, because she deals in HR. Like, this recruit doesn't know what a hiring manager is. So, hey, tell us what that landscape is like. What is a hiring manager, and is it even a worthy goal?
Why are they important?
Why are they important? How do you figure out who they are, and or am I completely off base? And if I am, just tell me.
Well, no, I don't think that you're off base. And LinkedIn is a great resource that, I didn't have LinkedIn when I was getting my career started, but now you can look at somebody's background, you can see their face, you can reach out to them with a connection request and a message. You can search companies that interest you and on LinkedIn, and you can scroll down and search the people that work there. So we've got so many resources at our fingertips. So a hiring manager, their role is going to be different depending on what industry. So for my recruiting, I recruit specifically for the medical manufacturing industry. So companies that are employing medical sales reps, marketing folks, medical affairs folks, just any type of role for a medical company. But your hiring manager, they're over the team. So they're managing the team. So they're managing the individuals on the team. They're leading them. They're helping motivate them. They're making sure that they are meeting their success metrics. So if it's sales, it's going to be a quota. If it's not sales, it's going to be a different kind of success metric. And how to find them, I think more importantly is you did mention, okay, so you're in a spot where you know what it is that you want, but keep your focus on what you want, and then try anything that make an effort in any direction that makes sense for you. So if you can connect with recruiters in the industry, let them know that you're looking. When they have an opportunity that aligns with your background and what you're looking for, they can connect with you. And with the hiring manager, yes, great to connect with them directly. They may not have an opening. So it's really only going to be important, I think, if they have an opportunity. And they may not have one right now, but they might have one down the line. So I would keep your focus number one on you, what it is that you want, and research different companies, different industries, and then you can find the hiring managers and or the recruiters on LinkedIn. And you can also find job postings on LinkedIn, and you can also go direct to the company's website and look at their job board there. But if you want to get directly connected with the hiring manager, you could do that on LinkedIn, and you could figure that out just based on their title. But different companies have different titles. That might take a lot of legwork that could be unnecessary, because that hiring manager may not even have an opening. So you can absolutely go that route, but I think more importantly, identify what it is you want and go in that direction and keep the focus on, what you want.
I know that companies that are looking for talent, they want to make sure that there's a good fit. There's a good fit between the individual from the company standpoint. Whoever's running that recruiting or that hiring manager, they want to know that this individual is going to kind of fit into the organization and specifically where we need them. And vice versa, the person that's applying for a certain position wants to make sure that the company is a good fit for them too. So how should service members be viewing this fitness challenge? Is it simply reminding yourself of what it is that you want, or are there other tactics? And how does a company view whether or not an individual fits?
I think you are going to know if you are a fit based on how you feel. So I know you want tactical, and I'll do my best to keep it tactical. But first, I am going to bring it back to leading with your emotions, because that's going to tell you. So, for example, when I was waiting tables and I was trying to get my career started, one of my challenges was I had a very negative connotation. My energy just completely sinks if I think about reporting to and sitting in an office all day. I just get very uncomfortable. I like structure, but I have to create my own structure. So if I go to an interview that's like that, I've got to pay attention to the feeling that it's giving me in my gut. If all my energy drops, blah, like maybe I'm going to make a bunch of money there, but I'm not going to be a good fit because I don't want to do that. So paying attention to how you're feeling in the company of the manager when you're interviewing with the company, but also when you think about picturing yourself in the day of the life of the role. That's key, is to understand the day in the life of the role so that you can picture yourself in that role and know, am I going to like it? And that's going to help you discern if you're going to be good at it. You can continue expanding and growing your skill set. The first time you do something, you're not going to be nearly as good, of course, as the 100th time that you do something. It doesn't mean that you're not going to be good at it, but you want to start with, how does this make me feel?
Okay. No, that's great. That's a perfect answer. It makes sense to me. Anything to add?
Yeah, let me give you just a little bit. Maybe this is maybe a little bit more tactical. And I tell candidates this all the time, because most hiring managers, most of the time, I mean, it's going to depend on the opening. They're going to have, and I always ask them when I'm recruiting for them, what's the perfect ideal candidate look like for you? And they know, and hopefully trust me, if I need to go a little bit outside of that profile, I will. And so what I tell candidates is, hey, your experience is your experience, and that is great. Sometimes we check every single one of the boxes and it's not a fit for maybe a different reason. Maybe the culture is not a fit, whatever. Maybe the geography is not a fit. Other times we check some of the boxes and not all, and it's a great fit. So you don't have to, as far as being a fit, it doesn't mean that you check every single box.
So there's something to be said about genuine enthusiasm.
Absolutely. Yes, because you can have a candidate that will take sales, for example, medical sales. That's a lot of my experience, that has all of the contacts. So they've been in the space selling the same type of product, maybe for a competitor. They want to leave or got laid off or whatever. So the reason that they want to leave makes sense, but they're coming from a company that's a completely different culture, or maybe they're at a place in their career where they're just no longer excited about this particular space. And then you've got, somebody else that really, really, really wants it. And they're showing up, they're being resourceful, they're going above and beyond. That candidate's probably going to get it over the candidate that checks every single box, if the candidate that checks every single box is not excited about the role.
That's something too on our team. We've been referring to that as a culture ad. So it may not be a perfect culture fit, but that might not be exactly what we're looking for. So someone that is a culture ad may come in with the right, the ethics and values, and is going to help improve the team, and may not have all the exact skills and check all those boxes, but in the end will be a greater contributor.
Absolutely.
And I'm sure that I haven't sat on the other side of like a hiring panel, but I'm sure you can tell the difference between genuine enthusiasm and somebody that just doesn't have it. Like, it's just not there.
Right. And if they're not excited about the role, that demonstrates all kinds of other potential red flags. Do they have their priorities straight? Why are they interviewing for a job that they really don't want? Well, if they don't know how to prioritize their time, they're not going to prioritize yours, as a hiring manager. And that's what they're going to do with their customers as well. So how we do anything is how we do everything. And
Right.
to your point, Peggy, about the value add, you can't teach some of these intangibles. Well, actually, I do in my coaching. Drive, ambition, good questions, having the ability to get right to the point, to prioritize what is important to you as a candidate. These are strong inherent skill sets that, self-awareness, that's going to be more important, social awareness, who do you want interacting with your team and with your customers, regardless of the experience.
Sure.
Some of the time.
Absolutely.
I want to ask you a question I ask every guest. If there were 2 or 3 things that you wanted our listeners to remember, our service members, as they're preparing for a major career transition, what are they?
One is lead with what lights you up. If you think of an idea for a career transition and it makes your energy sink, go in the other direction. That is not an opportunity. Something that you don't want to do is not an opportunity. So that would be number one. And something that I like to say often to everyone is to stay curious and to get excited. I think these are key success habits, that just staying, if something draws your interest, get more and more and more curious about it. If there's something that you really don't like about your current job or a direction, get more and more and more curious about that. Things that we like and things that we don't like are both indicators of our direction. And a third would be, all you have to do is take the first step, and then your next step is going to show up. So if you get an idea, something that you're curious about, write it down, and whatever idea shows up next, that's your first step. It might be to research, it might be to reach out to someone in that field. You never know where that's going to lead you.
Perfect.
That's great advice.
Yeah, that's money. So how can listeners find you if they want to ask other questions or follow you?
Absolutely. A few different ways. I have a YouTube channel. I don't think you can change the name of your YouTube channel once you get it going. So unfortunately, it is Being Amy
Drum
Lee.
roll, please.
It is Being Amy Lee Miller. So to be BEING and then my name, Being Amy Lee Miller. My website is amyleemiller.com. That's easier than troikatalentacquisitions.com, which is my recruiting firm, but the same addresses will take you to the same website. So YouTube, I have Instagram, which is Amy Lee Miller Coaching. And you can email me too. That would be amy@amyleemiller.com, spelled AMYLEEMILLER.
And we'll get all of that in the episode notes, plus your book, Where's My Mustard? How to Let Go, Attract and Achieve a Quest for Self-Improvement. I like this book. I'm not going to do the Jocko Willink thing and start quoting and reading half of it, but this is definitely, I love that guy's podcast, but this is a great book. It's a great resource. And thank you so much for your time, Amy. I'm so excited. We finally got you on the podcast. It worked out. And I'm excited because I certainly hope your words of wisdom help others the way it helped me.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate that. And the foundation of everything that I write about and talk about and teach on is self-empowerment. And that's because when you learn to give yourself what it is you need, that's the groundwork to become unstoppable.
Thank you, Amy.
Yeah, thank you much. That's great. Okay, Amy, I'll be in touch.
Thank you so much.
So, Peggy, guest co-host, what'd you think?
That was really fun.
Yeah?
I was super nervous, and I don't know why, because it felt like a organic conversation with friends, which is the best way to feel after something like that.
Yeah, no, it's great. And the fact that I kind of know Amy a bit better than
she knows all about you. So
yeah, she does. Thank you for not spilling the beans on me, Amy. I appreciate it. No, it was good. Yeah, I was very happy. What stood out in your mind?
Here I am taking notes to apply to my own life, that I loved some of just the practical advice and things that really resonate, creating micro habits and sort of staying present and getting out of, the stop searching for the outcome and just try to refocus on the problem. And all of it even at the end, as you're talking about the tools, to me, it's, you can have the tools, you can do the work finding the tools, but if you don't actually apply the tools, what good are they? And Amy, just the language she uses and her examples and just her whole journey, it just seems so relatable and, I don't know, just digestible. I appreciated, and I hope the listeners will also, just how practical her advice is and, small bites.
Yeah, 100%. It's the simplicity of the small bites, right? Go with what lights you up, right? I think I'm going to put that on a sticky and put it in my mirror when I wake up. She coached me too. I've got my own mantras. I'm not going to say that on, that's too personal. I'm not going to share it with everybody. I'll share it with you maybe after the recording, Peggy, but go with what lights you up, right? Because I think what she's telling me is like, don't go with the easy job, right? Just because it's easy. Yeah. Right. Just because maybe I have a fear, as most service members do, like you go from the financial security of knowing you're going to get a paycheck on the 1st and the 15th. One might be inclined to not go with what lights them up and go with the expedient answer. And then the third bullet that she made, like, take the first step.
Yeah.
Like everything, the first step is probably not going to be the best step. It shouldn't be, because it was your first step.
Right.
But just going out there and doing it, putting in the work and saying, okay, that didn't go the way I thought it would go. Well, good. What did I learn from it? Let's revise, reattack.
Sure.
I don't know. I just like Amy. It's so encouraging and so positive.
Yeah, she's likable. I like her now too.
Yeah. So this wraps up another great conversation. And thank you very much for listening. Hey, we're going to do something different here. I've got my daughter here to help close us out. What do you have to say, Hadley?
If you like what you heard, you can support our podcast by giving us a 5-star review or whatever you think we rate.
How many stars?
5 stars.
Or not 4, not 1. How many stars?
5 stars.
That's right. You can also follow the New Mission Career Transition podcast on what apps, Hadley?
Spotify, Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, or other podcast apps.
And you can follow us on Instagram at New Mission CT. That's
New Mission Charlie Tango.
We would also love to hear your feedback. You can DM us on Instagram, or you could send us an email at our address, newmissionct@gmail.com.
We will get back to you as soon as we can.
If you're preparing for your own transition, know that I'm right there with you.
So until next time, stay focused.